When Emma's mother married again, she didn't expect to feel more alone. At 22, she had just moved back home after college. Her degree in creative writing didn't land her the job she'd hoped for. She was burned out, uncertain, and tired of pretending she had it all figured out. The new house was in a quiet neighborhood in upstate New York, far from the city life she once loved. It was big, clean, and cold. Her mother seemed happy with her new husband, Tom, a serious man with a kind smile. Emma didn't dislike him, but she didn't really know him either. Then there was Caleb. Her new Stepbrother. Reserved always with headphones around his neck. His room was down the hall from hers, and yet it felt like he lived in a different world. He barely spoke during meals. He kept his eyes down. But sometimes when Emma glanced up from her coffee or her laptop, she'd see him watching her. Not in a weird way, just curious, like he was trying to figure her out. She couldn't tell if he liked her or if he just tolerated her. They didn't talk. Not really. Maybe a hey or good morning if they crossed paths in the kitchen. But there was no warmth. No bonding. She told herself it didn't matter. They were practically strangers forced under the same roof. He had his life. She had hers. And they would eventually go their separate ways. Emma tried to keep busy. She took long walks, filled notebooks with unfinished stories, and stayed up late watching old films. But nothing felt right. She missed her old friends. She missed being understood. Around her mother and Tom, she wore a polite smile. Around Caleb, she didn't wear anything at all, just silence. One afternoon, Emma came home from a walk and heard the faint sound of a guitar coming from Caleb's room. The door was slightly open. He sat on the edge of his bed, focused, strumming soft chords. She stood there for a second, quietly listening. The song wasn't familiar, but the feeling was. It reminded her of something lost, something that hurt a little to remember. She didn't say anything. She just walked away. Later that night, she stayed up journaling. She wrote about the boy she had left behind at school, the relationship that ended without a real goodbye. She wrote about her fear of starting over, her confusion about where life was taking her. She didn't know why she wrote it all down, maybe because it was safer than saying it out loud. Around 2 a.m., she closed the notebook, walked to the kitchen for a glass of water, and forgot the journal on the counter. In the morning, it was gone. Her heart dropped. She searched the kitchen, her bedroom, the living room, nowhere. Then, walking down the hall, she passed Caleb's room. His door was open. Her journal was sitting on his desk. She froze. He noticed her standing there. "I wasn't trying to be nosy," he said calmly. "You left it out. I didn't know what it was until I opened it." She walked in slowly, trying to hide her panic. "Did you read it?" Caleb looked at her. "A little. Enough to know you were hurting." Her face burned. "It's personal." "No. That's why I didn't finish it." He stood up, handed it back to her gently. "I won't tell anyone. It's safe." Emma didn't know what to say. She took the journal and turned to leave. But before she did, Caleb spoke again. "You're a good writer." She blinked, surprised. "I mean it," he added. "The way you write it feels honest." That was the first time they really spoke. And after that, things shifted. The next day, Caleb knocked on her door with a book in his hand. "I think you'd like this one," he said. It was a collection of poems, quiet, sad, beautiful. Emma accepted it, unsure why he cared. They started to share small moments. A quiet breakfast. A movie on the couch, neither saying much. Sometimes he'd send her a song link over text, and she'd listen and reply with a thoughtful line. Their conversations were brief, but meaningful. They didn't talk about the journal again. But Emma noticed he looked at her differently. Now, not like a stranger, but like someone who understood something others didn't. She wondered why he kept her secret. Why he didn't joke about it or use it against her. He was only 17, but sometimes he seemed older than the rest of them. More patient. More observant. One night, Emma had a nightmare. She woke up sweating, her heart racing. She didn't remember what it was about, just that it left her shaken. She walked to the kitchen for water and found Caleb already there, sitting in the dark. Couldn't sleep. he asked softly. She nodded. They didn't say much, just sat at the table, sipping water in the quiet. After a while, Caleb said it's okay to feel lost. Most people just pretend they're not. Emma looked at him. You seem like you figured it out. He gave a soft laugh. Not even close. That was the moment she realized they were more alike than she thought. Both trying to find their place in a life they didn't ask for. Both pretending they were okay when they weren't. From then on, their bond grew, not through big confessions or dramatic scenes, but in small ways. A shared silence, a knowing glance, the way he never asked for her secrets but somehow always made space for them, and Emma, for the first time in months, didn't feel completely alone. But deep down, she still wondered what was he hiding behind all his silence. And why did it feel like he understood her pain better than anyone else ever had? Emma hadn't meant to open up to Caleb. It just started happening. After the journal incident, she became more careful, but also more curious. Caleb hadn't told anyone. He hadn't teased her or judged her or made it a thing. Instead, he started showing up in small, thoughtful ways. A book left by her door. A playlist shared through text. Quiet company during breakfast. And for the first time in months, she felt like someone actually saw her. But it was still strange she was 17. Technically her stepbrother, and completely different from anyone she'd ever confided in. Yet somehow he listened better than any adult in her life. He didn't ask too many questions. He didn't try to fix her. He just listened. And that made her start talking. Most of their conversations happened late at night. Emma couldn't sleep much these days. Her thoughts raced, full of regret and what-ifs. One night, she was sitting on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket, when Caleb quietly joined her. Holding 2 mugs of tea. You looked cold, he said simply. Thanks. They sat in silence, the porch light casting soft shadows. After a while, Emma found herself saying something she hadn't said out loud in almost a year. I was in love once. I left without saying goodbye. Caleb didn't move. He didn't press. He just let her speak. We were together in college. It was serious. At least, I thought it was. But I panicked. Life got hard. I stopped believing in us. And I didn't fight for him. She stared at her mug, unsure why she was admitting this to a teenage boy she barely knew a month ago. I write about him sometimes, she added. But it never sounds right. Caleb finally spoke. Maybe because you're still trying to explain it to yourself? His words surprised her not, because they were wise, but because they were true. He had this way of getting right to the heart of things without pushing. After that night, things became easier between them. Their conversations grew deeper. Emma stopped filtering her thoughts. She told him about her struggles with writing, how the rejection emails from publishers were getting harder to read. She told him about the pressure to seem okay for her mom, how she always had to smile and say she was figuring it out, even when she wasn't. Caleb shared things too, slowly. He talked about school, about how he didn't fit in, how his friends had drifted since his mom's divorce, how music was the only place he felt like himself. Emma realized that behind his quiet nature, Caleb carried his own kind of sadness. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. They just shared space reading, watching shows, listening to music with one earbud each. It felt normal in a way nothing else did lately. Then one afternoon, Emma found something on her desk, a folded piece of notebook paper. On it was a simple line. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just still healing. It wasn't signed, but she knew it was Caleb. The handwriting was neat, careful. The words stayed with her all day. She knocked on his door later and held up the note. Didn't mean to overstep. He said, You didn't. She paused. Thank you. A few days later, she left a poem on his guitar case. One she had written about feeling lost and being found in unexpected places. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. He didn't say anything about it. But the next time she passed his room, she heard him quietly strumming a tune to the rhythm of her poem. That was how they communicated now, through notes. Quiet glances. There was something unspoken building between them. Not romantic, Not obvious. Just a closeness that didn't need definition. But Emma was aware of the lines. She was older. He was her stepbrother, technically. People wouldn't understand. Still, she couldn't ignore how safe she felt around him. How her chest didn't tighten when he was near. How she could breathe easier knowing he wasn't judging her. And yet, the more she shared, the more one question stayed in the back of her mind. Why was he so willing to carry her secrets? One night, after a long walk, Emma returned home to find Caleb sitting alone in the living room. Headphones around his neck, eyes staring at the dark screen of the TV. He looked distant, like his thoughts were somewhere far away. "Everything okay?" she asked. He hesitated, then shrugged. "Yeah, just. Life stuff? You can talk to me too, you know." He gave her a small smile. "I know. Just not good at it." Emma sat beside him. "Try me." He was quiet for a while, then said, "It's weird. I don't really talk to my dad anymore. Not since he married your mom." The days grew shorter, and the house felt quieter in the early fall. Emma and Caleb's connection deepened without much fanfare. It wasn't about big conversations or dramatic moments. It was small things that made all the difference. Caleb didn't push Emma to talk, but when she did, he listened like no one else ever had. And that made her feel safe, like she could be herself without fear. One afternoon, Emma was sitting on the porch steps, writing in her notebook. Caleb came out holding a cup of coffee and sat beside her without saying a word. They shared the silence, broken only by the distant sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Emma showed him a poem she had written about feeling lost and finding small moments of hope. Caleb read it carefully, then simply said, "You're really good." His praise wasn't about flattery. It felt genuine, and for once, Emma believed it. She'd spent so long doubting herself, but Caleb's quiet support helped her see herself differently. As days passed, they continued exchanging notes and music. Caleb introduced Emma to new artists she had never heard of. Emma shared stories she hadn't dared tell anyone. She learned that Caleb's world was complicated too. His parents had divorced years ago, and he rarely saw his dad. Music was his escape, his way of making sense of everything. One evening, Emma found Caleb in the kitchen, making a sandwich. The house was dark except for the kitchen light. He looked up when she came in. "Want some?" he asked. Emma nodded, and they ate together in companionable silence. For the first time, it didn't feel strange to share space. It felt like belonging, but beneath the calm, Emma sensed Caleb carried his own secrets, things he didn't want to share. She wondered what they were, but she never pressed. Instead, she offered him her trust, hoping he'd do the same when he was ready. Then came the moment Emma had been avoiding. The conversation about the boy she left behind. One rainy night, wrapped in a blanket on the couch, she told Caleb about the relationship that ended too soon. She spoke quietly, almost as if telling a story rather than confessing a pain. "I thought it was forever," she said. "But I ran. I left without saying goodbye. Sometimes I wonder if he ever forgave me." Caleb listened, his eyes soft. "You don't have to carry that alone." She looked at him, surprised by his kindness. "Why do you care so much?" He shrugged, then smiled faintly. "Because you trusted me." That trust grew stronger. Caleb never judged her mistakes. Instead, he made space for her to heal. Emma began to see him not just as her stepbrother, but as someone who understood what it meant to feel broken and hopeful at the same time. One afternoon, Emma's mother mentioned how close Caleb and Emma seemed. Emma brushed it off, but noticed Caleb didn't react. That night, she asked him if their parents noticed. He shook his head. "They don't really see us. Not the way we see each other." Emma realized that for the first time she had someone who looked beyond the surface. Someone who saw her truth. Then came the small but meaningful gesture that sealed their bond. Emma found a note slipped under her door. It read, "I'm here. No matter what." It was simple, but it meant everything. She left a reply on Caleb's desk. "Me too." They didn't need to say more. Their quiet understanding spoke louder than words. But with all the closeness, Emma felt a growing worry. What if their secret friendship wasn't something others would accept? What if their bond was misunderstood? One night she asked Caleb, Why do you keep my secrets? Even the painful ones. He looked at her seriously. Because I know what it's like to be misunderstood. I want you to have someone who won't let your story be twisted or lost. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She wasn't sure if it was relief or gratitude, but the weight she'd carried for so long felt lighter. They sat together in silence. Two people connected by trust and unspoken understanding. That night, Emma realized something important. Sometimes the deepest love isn't loud or flashy. Sometimes it's the quiet promise to keep someone's heart safe, no matter what. And that's exactly what Caleb was doing. Keeping her secrets wasn't just about trust. It was about love, patient, gentle, and real as autumn deepened. The bond between Emma and Caleb grew stronger in quiet ways that spoke louder than words. They had become each other's safe place in a house that still felt new and strange. The way Caleb kept her secrets, without judgment or pressure, made Emma feel seen like never before. But beneath the calm surface, there was something unspoken, a connection neither wanted to name but both felt deeply. One chilly evening, Emma came home from a long day and found a small folded note on her desk. Her heart quickened as she opened it. The note read simply, "I don't say much, but I hear you. I keep your secrets because you never laughed at mine." There was no signature, but Emma knew immediately it was from Caleb. That quiet message hit her harder than any conversation could. She walked to Caleb's room, note in hand, and found him sitting by the window, looking out at the dark sky. She hesitated before speaking. "You left the note," she said softly. He looked at her, a little surprised but not embarrassed. "I guess I'm better at writing things down than saying them out loud." Emma smiled gently. "Thank you. It means a lot." Caleb shrugged, his usual guarded expression softened. "We don't have to say everything out loud to understand each other." Emma sat beside him on the window seat. The night was cool, but the room felt warm with shared silence. For a moment, the usual title stepbrother, stepsister faded away. There was just the quiet closeness between two people who understood what it meant to carry pain and still hold hope. That night, Emma felt something shift inside her. She realized how rare it was to find someone who listened without trying to fix you, who held your vulnerabilities gently instead of judging them. Caleb wasn't just a stepbrother anymore. He was the person who made her feel like she belonged. Over the next few days, their unspoken connection deepened. They shared more moments watching the rain from the porch, trading favorite songs, and sitting together in the kitchen with mugs of hot chocolate. They didn't rush anything, didn't force feelings. Instead, they let their closeness grow naturally, built on trust and quiet understanding. One afternoon, while helping Caleb with his homework, Emma noticed how focused he was, how much effort he put into things even when he didn't talk about them. She realized how much he had grown, how much he had become more than just the quiet teenager she first met. She reached out, lightly touching his arm. "You're stronger than you think." Caleb looked at her, surprised by her words. "I've had to be," Emma nodded. "Me too." The house felt less lonely now. Their parents noticed, but neither Emma nor Caleb said much. They didn't need to explain what had changed. It was clear in the way they looked out for each other, the small kindnesses they exchanged. One night, Emma confessed something she'd kept hidden for a long time. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared that I'll never fix what I broke with him, the boy I left behind." Caleb listened without interrupting. After a moment, he said, "Maybe some things don't need fixing. Maybe they just need time." Emma looked at him, hope flickering in her chest. "Do you think you ever stop carrying your secrets?" He shrugged. "I think everyone has secrets. Maybe it's less about stopping and more about who you trust to hold them." Emma smiled, realizing that Caleb had been holding her secrets all along, because he had to, but because he wanted to, because he understood what it meant to need someone in your corner. Their connection wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was real. It was the steady comfort of knowing someone is there, no matter what. And in that quiet promise, Emma found something she hadn't thought possible: peace. They didn't rush to name their feelings or change their relationship overnight. Instead, they let things unfold naturally, knowing that some bonds are meant to grow quietly, deeply, without noise or pressure. In a world that often felt confusing and uncertain, Caleb became Emma's anchor. He kept her secrets not just out of loyalty, but because he cared in a way words couldn't fully express. And maybe that was the truest kind of love there is: patient, gentle, and steady.